Cade Cunningham, 29 points, 15 assists, 10 rebounds. Detroit, a wire-to-wire win, even though the Knicks on this play got within 2 after being down in the third quarter by 17. Detroit, though, pulled away down the stretch. They end their 16-game losing streak to the Knicks that had been the longest losing streak for one team against another in the whole league. 120 to 111 is the final. Great to have you with us. Bill Pito along with Wally Szczerbiak. So, Wally, the Knicks really missed Karl Anthony Towns on the boards.
Yep.
They were outboarded by 12. That's tied for the biggest differential they've had against on the boards. They were down by 16 after the first quarter, got to within 4 in the second quarter, and then they were down by 17 in the third quarter. And as I mentioned, they cut it to 2 early in the fourth quarter, but they could never get the lead.
Listen, the fight, the energy, the will was there. But this Detroit Pistons team, they came out, saw Towns was not in the lineup, and they had the belief that they could break that 16-game losing streak against the Knicks. In that first quarter, they executed on a mission. They were the more aggressive team, 39 to 23 in the first quarter. That's setting the tone, how you steal a victory on the road, and you got to give them a lot of credit. This is a young team that has been the laughingstock of the NBA for the last few years. They're sending a message to everyone in the NBA that they're trying to get back to prominence, and they're becoming a really relevant basketball team led by Cade Cunningham. Triple-double, a big-time triple-double. He was in control of this game the whole entire night.
This is the Pistons' 10th win of the year. Last year, for the whole year, they won only 14 games. Third quarter, Knicks down 17, closed with a flurry, and it looked like they were going to be able to maybe come back in the fourth quarter. They just could not get over the hump.
Well, I remember, whenever a team made a run against us, our coaches would always say, they made their run, now we make ours. And the Knicks expended so much energy and emotion in this building to get back into the game that's when the Detroit Pistons just kind of kicked it into gear. That was a crazy play by Precious Achiuwa. And then how about OG Anunoby sneaking in there to get that put-back dunk? This is when the Knicks were just absolutely rolling in that third quarter, and you felt like they completely stole the momentum and got the momentum. But the problem is Cade Cunningham was not going to let his team lose this game. I mean, look at the effort, the multiple efforts that Tom Thibodeau talks about. It was all over the court for the Knicks. It really was. They got after this Pistons team in that third quarter defensively. That led to some electric plays in transition. Huck Porty with that nasty throwdown. But then in the fourth quarter, it seemed like the Knicks ran out of gas a little bit. And Cade Cunningham just took his time. That's an impressive shot over a long athletic defender in Mikal Bridges. But he just has that good size that Tom Thibodeau referred to.
6'6" Cunningham.
Yes.
That's a big factor.
That's a big factor because he can see over the defense. Look at the way he sees over the defense. Jalen Duren is a rim runner and an outstanding finisher. I thought that was a big shot. It was like a 4-point game at that point. Fontecchio knocks down that big three, extends it to 7, and that kind of took the air out of the building, and then they continued to run pick and roll. The Knicks have struggled with high pick and roll, controlling big men that are rolling to the basket. How about that guy, Malik Beasley? Boy, can he shoot the basketball.
7 threes.
For 10 from 3, lights out, and the Pistons were really good from 3 at 18 for 36.
All right, I mentioned the rebounding differential, 43-31 in favor of the Pistons. Also of note, the free throw shooting. The Knicks came into this game while the top free throw shooting team in the whole league. They go only 16 of 27 from the line. Every single Detroit starter was in double figures, and the Pistons are able to survive 122-111. How much did the Knicks miss Karl Anthony Towns? I mentioned, obviously, on the boards because he's the second highest rebounder in the whole league. What about in terms of the overall flow of the game?
Well, this Detroit team, they don't have a ton of size. Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart, they're very active, mobile big men, but they're not legitimate 7-footers. That's a big difference that Karl Anthony Towns brings, just that size that you can't teach. And the other thing, he swallows up 15 rebounds a game just by being big and being aggressive and pursuing the basketball. And, there weren't a lot of rebounds out there to be had because the Pistons were shooting so well. So you got to understand, the Knicks got out-rebounded because the Pistons didn't miss very many shots, and the Knicks missed a lot of shots. So that's why the defensive rebounds are going to go most of the time to the Pistons. But listen, Towns is a big part of this team. And I thought Bridges and Anunoby without Towns in the lineup. You knew Brunson was going to go for 30, and he was going to go off. But I thought it was important that Bridges and Anunoby had good shooting nights, and they were a little bit off with their shooting tonight, and it's going to be tough to pull off a win without Towns in the lineup.
In the pregame, we talked about Cade Cunningham. You see him up close. Looks like he's taken a step forward into the upper echelon of talent in this league. He was spectacular tonight.
Yeah, he really was. And I loved his composure. That's the biggest thing. Anytime the Knicks were making a run, he made key, timely shots for his team. 15 assists, too. I mean, he is just so smooth. He's never in a rush. That's the big thing. Look at the way he's evaluating what the defense is doing. He's always reading the defense, and he's playing off what his defender's doing and how they're defending them as a team. And that's what the great players do. The great players play the game in slow motion. They never get sped up. They just play it at their pace. And he's getting to the point where he's an all-star in the making. He's playing like an all-star this year if he continues to play like this.
All right, well, let's now bring in Monica McNutt, help call the game on ESPN New York, the radio call. Monica, when you look at the box score, it seems when the Knicks have lost this year for the most part, it's been mainly or at least in part to their inability to defend the three. Pistons went 18 of 36 from downtown tonight.
Yeah, they were lights out. That's definitely a theme in losses, Pito. But I also have in front of me a first quarter only box score, because when we talk about things that have been thematic, slow starts. I mean, this team was down by 16 to start or to end that first quarter. They had 6 turnovers. They were fortunate that at that point the Pistons had only capitalized with 7 points. But a lot of the differences that you saw at the end of the first quarter continued through the ball game, including the points in the paint margin and the fast break points in particular were something that the Pistons were able to really find life in.
Monica, everyone's been asking me and everyone else about Cade Cunningham being an all-star. What do you think? This guy looks like an all-star to me.
You know, every time the Knicks made a push, Wally, they got it to 4. I think the closest they got it was 2. Whether it was Cade or someone else on this team, I thought the Pistons demonstrated a level of poise that you have not seen. They, to me, looks like the veteran team in this matchup. And literally, if you tell me Cade Cunningham's going to have a triple-double, that's a nightmare. That means not only has he gotten to every spot that he wanted to in terms of scoring, he's also picked apart your defense with his assist. That is problematic. He certainly did look like an all-star.
We talked about, Wally and I, the absence of Karl Anthony Towns. What's your take on the impact that had on tonight's outcome?
Nobody on that team is going to make that excuse. It's certainly an impact, don't get me wrong. You think about the monster performance that he had when these two teams met in Detroit. It is absolutely a difference maker. And even if he doesn't necessarily have the double-double that he's averaging, when you think of both Karl Anthony Towns and Cameron Payne from just a rotation standpoint, every time the Knicks made a push to get that thing to 1 or 2 possessions, they then sort of ran out of gas in terms of being able to sustain that momentum. And so I just thought about the minutes that were altered when you missed those 2 guys, in addition to the productivity as far as scoring, Pito.
Monica, how cool is it to have all the alumni in the building? What does it say about the Knicks franchise that all the old players come back and just love supporting this team? You
know, when we do radio, Wally, sometimes at halftime, that's your opportunity to run around, take care of whatever you need to do at halftime because you're sitting at the booth through the course of the game. But both Tyler and I stayed up in our spots tonight and watched. We took pictures. We kind of really enjoyed it, the celebration. Generations of Knicks basketball represented tonight. It was really, really cool to see. I know, and I'm sure, Wally, you can attest to this, there's nothing quite like being in a locker room once you walk away. And so to have different generations of guys that weren't necessarily in the same locker rooms, but were a part of the same franchise, I know that is truly a very strong bond that ties them all together. It was really special to witness.
All right, Monica, as always, we appreciate it. We'll talk to you on Monday. Homecoming game tonight, presented by Dash Pass. And you mentioned talking to Monica how special it was for you guys, special for all of us to see all these guys. And really enjoyed Alan's interview with Jerry Lucas. I mean, the guy's 84 and he's still as sharp as a tack, you know.
That's impressive. It was generations upon generations of great Knicks in the crowd. You could feel there was a little bit of extra oomph and energy. I thought the Knicks as a team, they really wanted to get this win for the alums. Just came up a little bit short. You got to give that Pistons team a ton of credit.
All right, Wally, so no Karl Anthony Towns. Jericho Sims got the start, played only 6 minutes. Ariel Hukporti got time because of Cat being out, and Hukporti again. We mentioned this. When he plays, he stands out. 9 points. He was very effective tonight.
He was very effective. His energy is always there. I thought he did a great job of running that high pick and roll and rim running. That's what he does. And, you know, he's going to have to continue to learn. He gets opportunities to get out there on the floor. He soaks up how to be an NBA player and an impact NBA player. And, you love his work ethic. I think the Knicks have found a guy, late in the draft that, has a chance to be very meaningful in a rotation. And that's a really good thing because we've questioned the bench a lot. Where are the Knicks going to get production off the bench? But this coaching staff always finds guys and makes them productive when they get minutes out there. And I thought Huck Porty was very effective out there. He was going up against some very mobile, athletic big men in the Detroit Pistons, what they have. So it was a really good matchup for him. So he's just got to continue to learn, continue to watch film, continue to develop, and soak in, learning type times from Karl Anthony Towns and company and this coaching staff.
Porty, by the way, 4 of 4 from the floor, and also off the bench. Precious Achiuwa, second game of the year, played well with 10 rebounds.